How do you speak to yourself? I'm not going to ask, do you speak to yourself? Because I know you do. We all do. We all speak to ourselves. We all talk to ourselves. Yeah. Now the question is, how do we do it? Yeah. What kind of friend are you to yourself? Have you got this nagging person on your shoulder all the time? In your head, nagging you, saying, "Oh, you can't do this. You can't do that." You have the one side of you that's saying, "Oh, I want to try this today. I want to try a new skill, or I want to do this. I want to do something interesting." Then the other side is saying, you can't. You can't. Why are you trying to do that? That's not you. How do you speak to yourself? How do you speak to yourself? I mean, we all have the positive and the negative side, don't we? You know what it's like. As I just said, you have the one side that's trying to encourage you, motivate you to do things, and the other side that's, no, you can't, basically. So, that's why I said, how do you speak to yourself? I mean, for example, when you get up in the morning, are you like, yes, another exciting day? Are you like, are you like that, A lot of us can be like that at times, like, oh, another day. I have to do it again, Or sometimes you just want to pull the blanket over your head. Yeah, I'm not saying we don't have days like that. Of course we do. Occasionally we do, yeah. But if it's all the time, that can be a problem. And if you are feeling like that a lot, seek help. If it is quite a serious problem for you, get some help. We don't have to suffer. But if you're the kind of person that is occasionally, then this might be able to help you. How you speak to yourself is important. How we speak to ourselves is very important. It's we can wake up and we can think, oh, ugh, oh, this is hurting, that's hurting, especially if it's something very minor. We can exaggerate it sometimes by making these old sounds when we get out of bed, like, those sounds. Every time we move, it's, I've seen and heard people do it, and I'm thinking, oh, I call those old sounds. Old sounds. Don't make old sounds if you can help it. But how we speak to ourselves is important. The words you say are actually quite powerful. For example, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. Well, if you keep saying that to yourself, guess what? You're right. Yeah, you're right. If you keep telling yourself you can't do this, you can't do that, you are right. You're right. You are so right. On the other hand, if you tell yourself, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can find a way to do this, I know how to do this, I will find out how to do this, guess what? You're so right. You are so right. Yeah. Basically, whatever we say to ourselves is what we become, basically. Yeah. Isn't that amazing when you stop to think about that, how powerful that actually is? Yeah. You, you can say to yourself, I can do this, I can, I will. Or if I don't know how, I know how to find out. I will find out how to do it. Yeah, I can do it. You can do it. All we have to do is recognize how powerful words really are. Do you know that you actually create your reality with your words, with your thoughts? Do you know that? That's so true. It really is. You may have discovered that already, but it is so true. We really do. It isn't, sometimes we tend to think, oh, that's just gimmicky. It's just, yeah. But it's really the truth. Think about something in your life, right? That, has happened to you. It could be good, it could be bad. And if you can, try and think about what your thought process was before that, If it was something, I know sometimes it's hard to remember what we were thinking, but, maybe from now on you can become more conscious of what you're thinking. Yeah, just start to deliberately be more positive. Sounds like a cliche, but it is real. Be positive about yourself. Why not? If you don't, who is going to? Really? If we're not positive about ourselves, who on earth is going to be? Right? It's such a crying shame when people are so negative and about themselves. And I'm thinking, don't you realize how powerful you actually are? Just think about it. If you cut yourself, what happens? If you cut your thumb or something like that, a little cut, what happens? Over time, what do you notice happening with your powerful self? You're noticing it starting to knit together. Those blood cells get together. They clump together to try and stop the bleeding. You've got the white blood cells getting in there. Everybody's getting in there. They're on your side. Yeah? They're on your side. It's incredible. That happens without you actually thinking about it, right? That's how amazing you are, right? If you break a leg on the table, for example, or a chair, yeah, you can sit there and watch it try and knit itself together. Okay, I'll wait. It ain't gonna happen, right? But you do one tiny cut on your hand. You can watch it repair. You can watch it knit itself together. And then in a few days, it's as good as gold. Yeah, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing to me. It is amazing. When you really become conscious of that, and that's what I want you to do, actually, to become very conscious of your body, right? How amazing it actually is. The fact that you don't have to even think about breathing, generally. Most, if we're reasonably healthy, you don't have to think about breathing. It's automatic. Unless you start thinking about it, then you start... But yeah, it's all these things run so smoothly, right? Think about even your hair. I mean, it just grows, doesn't it, out of your head? If you've got reasonable health, yeah, and you're not, not suffering from any particular condition, your hair grows, right? It's just something that happens. I mean, we take these things for granted so much, And I just want you to become conscious of it, to be very aware of the fact of how powerful you are. You're alive, right? You're alive. That is amazing, right? The fact that you're alive. We're alive. You're alive. Yeah, you're alive. It's a chance to do something different, to start anew, right? If you have made loads of mistakes in the past, guess what? Today is a new day. It's a clean slate. You can wipe that slate clean. You can think, you have the pen, you can write what's going to happen in that day. This is how powerful we are, right? You can rewrite your life. Yes, only you can do that, You have to think to yourself, I want to make a few changes. Maybe you're at rock bottom right now. I don't know your situation, but you could be at rock bottom right now, right? And if you are, just think, how much further do you have to go? Or do you want to go, Isn't it time that we turn it around? Yeah? And you can do that. The power of your words. Words are so, so important. So important. Really important, I mean, for example, just a small thing, being grateful, using grateful words, right? Just being grateful for anything. It could be grateful for the fresh air that you're breathing. And I know it can sound ridiculous to some of us, right? Especially if we're not used to it. But I tell you, the strongest people in the world are the most grateful, because you recognize that there is something to be grateful for despite whatever situation you're in, right? You know, I mean, you know, if things are really bad with you, really, really bad, just start being grateful for the fact that you can breathe, right? You can breathe. Thankfulness is such an important thing, you know, just being thankful, being grateful for the fact that you can breathe, you know. You may, you know, you might have a roof over your head, yeah? You have a roof over your head, right? I'm assuming that most of us watching this have a roof over our head, right? We're sheltered from the elements of outside, right? You have water, warm water, right? You can take a shower maybe, bath even. Don't take those things for granted. You have water. Do you know how many people don't have water in this world or are struggling to get water? You know, just find something to be grateful for. I'm going to give you a challenge. If you are going through it, find at least 5 things to be grateful for, right? I've already given you some clues, right? Find 5 things that you can be grateful for. Just 5 things, right? Fresh air, the fact that you can breathe, right? The fact that you can use the toilet. Yeah? That could be a real problem if you couldn't, you know, yeah? So just be really grateful. If you're struggling to find things to be grateful for, think about the fact that you can use the toilet. You can use the toilet, you can breathe. Think about the fundamentals that make life, you know, possible. You have water. Start there. Right? And if you keep doing that, find 5 things, right? If you keep doing that every morning, right? It doesn't even have to be morning, but it's great if it is morning, yeah? And throughout the day, until it becomes a habit, right? And I'm saying this from the heart because I don't want it to sound like a cliche, because it really is powerful. It really is. It's a very powerful tool, just being grateful, you know. And I believe every single one of us on the planet has the ability to be grateful, right? If you have your mind, your wits about you, as long as you know, you have a sane mind, you can be grateful, right? It's just something that we should never take for granted, right? Never take for granted. Words are very powerful, you know. You know, I just think sometimes the more I think about that, the more I am in awe of that. I'm just in awe, really, right now, because having to, you know, sitting down now and just thinking about that, sharing this with you guys, I'm just amazed at how in how amazing words actually are, and the way we speak to ourselves, you know. It can be very simple things like, I can do this. I can get up in the morning, right? I can take a shower, right? I can do it. If this is where you are, you know, if this is where we're at, we can take a shower, we can get out of bed, we can take a shower, you know, we can eat breakfast, we can go for fresh air, right? If that's the level we're at, start there, right? I can do these things. Sorry about that shake of the camera. I can do these things, right? Just be grateful. I am so grateful. I really am. I am so grateful. I'm just grateful because I've got air to breathe, right? I'm grateful that I can share with you on YouTube. I'm so grateful. You know, here I am. I'm just sitting here in my living room, just on my phone. It's not even a, you know, a new phone is just an old phone. But I can sit here with you and encourage you. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to do that. to share with you, right? Because I know we can get down. People can get down. I know people need encouragement. In this world, who doesn't need encouragement? You know, this world is so stressful. It can be so stressful at times. You know, we need encouragement. And here I am to encourage you, you know. And today I'm trying to put over to you the importance of the way you speak to yourself. It's so important. It really is. I mean, if this is something you haven't heard before, I want you to listen to it carefully, contemplate it on what I'm saying, and really run with it, you know. Just start talking more kindly to yourself. Be kind to yourself. You're powerful beyond measure. You really are, but you may not know it yet. But I'm here to just even act as a catalyst, you know, just something to spark a little bit of a change in you. Yeah? As I'm encouraging you, I'm encouraging myself too. You know, I'm getting excited, to be honest. I really am, about the power of words. It's exciting. The more you speak about the power of words, the more you be positive, try to help other people. Guess what? It helps you too. You know, I'm actually helping myself, helping you, helping myself. And I'm really trying. I really want to I would love to be able to encourage you and motivate you if you are feeling a little bit down or whatever. Start to change the way you think about yourself. It sounds a bit cheesy, I know, but it can be very little things, you know. It can be, I like my hair. My skin looks good today. Yeah, little things. I've got beautiful eyes, you know. Yeah, you'll start to see that sparkle will start to come back in your eyes, that spring in your step. When you know somebody's on your side, right? When you know somebody's got your back. I mean, this isn't something that I've always known, you know. This is something I'm starting to really look into now, and I'm thinking, you know what? I'm already seeing the benefit of it. I actually feel fantastic. I really do. I'm 60 plus, and I feel great. You know, I'm not on any medication. I'm happy, I'm healthy. You know, I get tired. Sure I do. But then I do a lot of work as well. So, you know, that's allowed, I guess. But I do take time to rest because I want to be kind to myself. You know, you need to be kind to yourself too. Yeah? Yeah? And, you know, another thing that's important, the words that we say is very important, but we don't want to think of ourselves as victims, right? If we can help it. I mean, you know, it can be tough. Life can be tough. But I think for me, I've noticed anyway, personally, that it's worse if you think of yourself as a victim. I don't blame anybody for anything, right? If anything happens in my life, I don't blame anybody for anything. It's all me. I take full responsibility for it because who else am I going to give that power to, right? If anything goes wrong in my life, I take responsibility for it because I'm not going to blame anybody and say, oh, it's my parents or it's my you know, it's my friend or it's my, you know, this person, that person, it's Sue, it's Dave, it's, you know, Robbie. No, what's the point of that? What would be the point of that, of doing that, really? Blaming people, what's the point of that? You just give your power away to other people when you do that. You know, I don't think I've ever done that, actually. Never. Never done that. You know, I mean, I know there are people that blame other people for things, but I'm thinking, what's the point doing that, really? Think about it really logically. What is the point doing that? You spend time and energy doing that when you could be spending time and energy looking inside yourself and thinking, what solution could I come up with? Right? You can speak to yourself and say, I can do this. I can fix this. I can fix that. If you don't like something in your life, you can change it. You might have to put a plan in place, of course, but you can work towards change. You don't have to spend your life blaming other people for where you are. It's it doesn't make sense, really doesn't. I mean, because people are people. People change like the wind, One day you could have somebody doing this or that. The next day, you catch up with them. They've moved on. They're doing something different. So, people can change their minds. People have a right to change their mind. How does that sit with you? People have a right to change their mind. You have a right to change your mind. Just as I have a right to change my mind, right? Your mind isn't fixed in stone, right? You can change your mind. You're allowed. It's allowed. It's allowed. It is. It's allowed. It really is. Yeah, the way we speak to ourselves is so important. It really is. I mean, we can fall into these boxes, so easily. The box of negativity, where your self is speaking to you in a very negative manner. Oh, I can't do this, can't do that, can't do this. Well, guess what? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You can do this. You can learn how to do this. You can find out how to do this. You can find out how to do that. No, we don't know everything at the moment, but you can learn how to do it. That's a kinder way to speak to yourself, about yourself. Yes, I might have made a mistake about this, but you know what? I can learn from that and I can correct it, right? You can learn. You can learn from mistakes. You can learn. You don't have to live and dwell in the mistake as if it's not you, it's you can move on. You can do things. You can do things. So what I want you to do is just be positive about yourself, yeah? Speak kindly. I can learn about this. I can learn about that. I can change this. I can change that. Don't blame other people. Don't blame other people. It's just not worth it. It's a waste of time and energy. Other people can change. They can move on. Then what are you going to do? Right? You're stuck in blame culture. What's the point of that? Have you ever caught up with other people, with some people that you haven't seen for a long time, and you expect them to be in a certain box, and then, whoa, these people are doing that. They've moved on. They've moved on. People can change. We're malleable, And so please, just think of 5 things that you can be grateful for. And I want you to write those things down if you're willing to share in the comments section, right? Write at least 2 things that you're grateful for in the comments section, right? I'll start. Okay, I just hope that you have a lovely day, a grateful day.